I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Arts Inc. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to bezel set sort of a modified hammerdown setting. Our original plan was like a full hammerdown. We ended up doing sort of a modified version, but I'll show you what we did and why we did it. Okay, so we have a little curve in here, right? So we want the stone to lay flat. So we've got a couple options. We can fill it with jet set to level it out, or we can make an inner bezel. Now, if this was like a faceted stone or the shape was whatever, we would make an inner bezel. In this case, since it's a cabochon and the bottom is flat and it's opaque, I think jet set is the easiest option. So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna stick it in the vise. We've got a little jet set in the water there. You see when it gets hot, it turns clear. We're gonna put it inside here and we're gonna use dowels to just kind of press it level so that we know we have like a nice even coat. And basically that will get rid of, the curve that's in there, and we'll have a nice flat surface to put our stone on. Okay, go. Put this in here. I'm going to, do you have the rest of your dowels? Mm-hmm. Okay. Ooh, look at that. So tidy. Love it. I just use the dowels because they have a flat edge, and normally what I do when I press it, I dip them in a little water and just like, you know what I mean? Get that level. Okay. Should dip that in a little cool water. Now, the only thing about doing this is a lot of times you just have to put it back in the water a couple times because this hardens pretty fast. So a lot of times I'll kind of like put it in here, and I'll press, and if I'm not happy with it, I'll just pull it out, put it in the water and soften it up and pull some of it off, or whatever we need to do. But you see what I mean? If you just take a dowel like this, and actually I think that's it. You see what I mean? I just took a dowel to press on it so that it's nice and level. Excellent. So what we'll do then, we're doing a hammer down, which is normally, you're like 1/3 in and 2/3 out. When you do a hammer down, you're going to have 2/3 of the stone down in the bezel and 1/3 of it sticking out. But I think we can get rid of some of the height of this bezel. Now, we left this extra high because there's always a lot of things that happen along the way, especially when you're filing a curve and all those things. But we do have some extra. So I would say, I think we could probably take this down maybe to, I think you can take it down to about there, and then we're going to stick the stone in and kind of check. Because what I'm doing is I'm kind of guesstimating. If you look at that inside and how the stone is going to look in there, I'm guesstimating 2/3 of the height of the stone down inside the bezel. Okay? So I would say trim that, get it level, and then we'll stick the stone in and sort of do some fine tuning. I think the height is right now. Basically, I'll take it out so you can take a little shot. Our jet set's in there, nice and flat. And like I said, if this wasn't a cabochon and whatever, we probably would have done an inner bezel, but jet set is faster. And when you have something like this, it just needs to be flat, which it is, so it's all good. So the stone's in there approximately 2/3 in and 1/3 out. And like I was saying before, you can vary it a bit depending on how much of a hump you want on the side. Each hammer down, you kind of do it until you're like, yes, that's the hump I dreamed of. You know what I mean? So I'm going to have you start using the bezel roller. So, because the first step is going to be really totally normal in the sense like north, south, east, west. We're going to press all this metal up against the stone. It's just going to be covering more of the stone than you're used to. But once you have that all the way around here, then I'm going to show you the hammering technique to truly do the hammer down. Okay? But right now it's going to be the normal, the normal procedure. Get it right up against the stone. Okay? Okay. Just to show you the progress. See, he's working that bezel right up against the stone. And then essentially when all those like little spaces are filled in and this is tight against the stone, then we'll go on and I'll show you the hammering technique. Okay? So take a look at this. We were just discussing the fact that it looks so pretty the way it is that my recommendation is that we'll do a little bit of hammering from the top to smooth it and blend it, but I don't think we should really do a full hammer down, like where you get the hump on the side. Hump is not a good word, but it's very pretty. But this, I just think it looks so good the way it is that I wouldn't do all of that. So I guess we're changing over to only a little bit hammer down setting. Now, thank you very much. So this is just like the two-handed hammering technique that we do to like finish off the setting, where you hold it in your non-dominant hand. You're gonna you set it up so that the tool is right in the middle of your pinky in your left hand if you're right-handed, right, like so. And then because that way you rest your pinky on the surface here, and that way you can just, you're not hitting this like crazy hard, but what this is gonna do, it's gonna smooth it out, it's gonna finish, you know, any of those small places and that kind of a thing. Because if it were me, this shape is just so lovely like this. This is all I would really do, is we'll do a round on the top, because you're getting that nice thickened edge, which I think looks great. And you know, what we were talking about before is like a hammer down setting, you know, depending on the stone and the piece and whatever, like there's no like real hammer down setting, if you know what I mean, like the right way to do it. You basically do it to the point where it looks good. And this looks fucking great, so I wouldn't do a whole lot to it. But here's the essence of it. Because if we were doing a full hammer down, we would be doing this harder. We would be driving this down, and that's what creates the hump. Do you know what I mean? But I think we're just gonna do it a little bit, but we'll see. Now we also make a special tool that does this if we're trying to get a really flat top, but in this case, I think we're just gonna stick with the Bezel Roller. Okay, so I want you to just circle around, because you see what I mean? Like how that just sort of like, it looks very pretty. So I've worked up in here. I want you to continue working your way, go all the way around and try to get it as even as you reasonably can. And then we're gonna look at it and just, you know, decide if we wanna do more or if we're done and we wanna just polish. But like, to me, I think that looks amazing. So I think we're done. We were just checking it from the side. And if you check from the side, it looks pretty level. We're gonna do a little bit of like smoothing and polishing from the top using something from my Bezel Settings polishing kit. But, I mean, I just think that looks beauteous. This has saved my life. There we go. See that? That looks lovely. So we could keep going if we wanted to, but honestly, I think it looks good the way it is. We're gonna do a little bit of polishing. Flat wheel from the Bezel Settings polishing kit. I'm gonna take this out of here and we're just gonna work the top a bit, you know, to kind of like smooth it out and give it a little shine. Because I think that looks fucking amazing. And like I was saying before though, this is like a personal choice. You know what I mean? If you wanted to hammer it down more, we could. But normally with one of these settings, I kind of stop when I like it. There. Okay, you know you always like brace your hands. You see how that'll just start to like really smooth that out and clean it up? Like so. So you're gonna work your way all the way around. And really try to keep this like flat from the top, because that'll, you know, of course, help you the most to get that nice even top, okay? So go all the way around, smooth it out, make it look booteous. Okay. And then if we want, we'll probably do a little bit of like green paper or whatever shine, you know, floats your boat basically on the side, because there's always like little, especially when you're doing a hammer down, there's always like little slip marks and things that we want to blend in. Okay. Excellent. All right. So I'll just casually, you know, show that off right there. I mean, I wouldn't do a darn thing to this. I think this is really just super perfect the way it is. And a lot of times, you know, when people talk about making a thickened bezel, you know, for their stone, they think it's about making the metal heavier, and it isn't. It's really usually just about the height that you put in of the stone. The lower the stone is in the setting, the more metal's going to show above it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a thing that people are always like, oh, well, how thick should I make it? I'm like, oh, just normal thickness. But I mean, it looks fucking great. I mean, it's just really, really nice. And this is one of those things that, like, you make decisions as you go, and sometimes you don't know the right thing until you see it, but then you have to have the wisdom to stop. You know what I mean? So that's it. Wear it and enjoy. But, you know, all we did at the top, we used a Swifty wheel just to smooth out that top edge a little bit. But, I mean, it's a little big for me, which is unfortunate, but, or maybe fortunate for you, but it really looks great. So you did a fantastic job. You should be very proud. So there's the final shot in all its glory. Love it. Looks so good.